Great. Sure. Great afternoon. Enjoyable afternoon. Good evening. We have all the speakers said. This is the co-author and the illustrator. I'm Jaganathan. Let's get started. So we have an wonderful evening before us. We have thought leaders assembled here. So we are going to have an enjoyable evening, and it's another reason great because we have targeted to release it pre-independence. Tomorrow is India Independence Day. So after wishing all of you a great Independence Day, let's get started with the book release function here. So with that introduction, I will hand over to Anuj. Then Anuj will take forward the evening today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Jaganathan, and it's a pleasure and also a huge honor for me to be here amongst all the guests of honor here today. And like Mr. Jaganathan said, good evening. Welcome to all the guests of honor and eminent personalities we have here, as well as all the guests who have joined. It's great to have you here. This is one of its kind event that we're going to have today. So what we're going to have today is a felicitation of two of our personalities, eminent personalities here who have written the foreword. Then we will do the actual book release and handover of the book. And then we will get a sneak peek into the book, also hear a little bit about the book in a little bit more detail, not to reveal everything, but we will find out some interesting tidbits about the book from the authors. And then we will do a book to lottery draw for a few winners for the book. So without I think too much ado, what we're going to do is we will first of all go straight into the book trailer, a video trailer of the book, and then we'll come back to do rest of the functions, formalities, and all the activities.
Okay. So here comes the trailer.
That's great. That was a wonderful video trailer. I hope that gives you a good glimpse into the book and some exciting events that are in the book. It is great to see some of these, and these are life lessons that we will all learn from the book.
And then just to introduce you quickly, probably 2-3 minutes, Dr. Ramani actually did his doctorate in IIT Bombay, and then he joined in research, both at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. He is also my first boss, okay? Very happy to say he was my first boss. And then actually I worked with him for 8 years. On my own compulsions, I had to come to Chennai. Otherwise, I think my association with him would have continued later. Actually, my fundamentals are kept very strong there. because of my association with the NCST and people like Dr. Ramani, and I thank him for that in this occasion. And then I personally request Dr. Ramani to accept these facilitations, then give his impressions. I think he has gone through the book even earlier, much earlier, for writing the foreword. He said that I have to read it. Okay, you send me whatever draft form it is. He read it through and gave us quite a bit of a nice foreword, which has gone into the book. So all of us will be able to read it. Thanks a lot, Dr. Ramani. And I request you to probably come up with your own probably self-installation talk on this.
Sampath Kumar, for the very kind introduction you have made. And I was delighted to read the book and to write the foreword for it. And it deals with the life in computer-related company in South India, and reflects a lot of South Indian culture. And I was very interested in it, very impressed. You see, a good novel does a lot more than tell a story. It is not just a storytelling exercise. Novels very often deal with social, psychological, spiritual, and political issues, and they throw a lot of light into them. So, in a sense, and I'm very happy authors will become engineers later. And I hope every professional in the field read this book, because it would rectify his tunnel vision that has come out as a result of his very narrow education. A narrow education gives you tunnel vision, and that is what we have to counteract today. And the American universities tell our universities, when they go for cooperation, they tell them, is in your curriculum, you do not really have any coverage of humanities or social sciences. I wish there were more books like Grandma in the Boardroom to make all this possible. So with that, I will conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ramani.
Thank you, Sampath. Thank you, Mr. Ramani. Now it's my job to introduce and felicitate Mr. Devendra Sagaria. Sampath said Mr. Ramani was his first boss. Dev was my last boss, but not just last boss. Also the one boss who would always remember, whom I would always remember. Okay, because he is my first mentor, last boss, but first mentor. Many read books, if not all, many read books. Some learn and apply what you read in the books. Few like us end up writing books, but only very, very few remain inspiration for people to write books. So there is one. So it's not exaggeration to say that the concept for Grandma in the Boardroom, this book story, is from Dev's story. So what the imaginary company Emerge Pro in Grandma in the Boardroom achieved in 5 years, much more than that they've achieved in AGS Health. What they've achieved in AGS Health is what has been portrayed in the book by me. So in a way, Dev has been the inspiration behind starting this book. So there are many, not only this growth, there are many other similarities or whatever I picked up. We are given in the preface itself that this is not an imaginary story. It's a story of what happened, real life incidents, little bit changed, tweaked to make it into a story, compiled, and the names changed. So Dev's name will not be there, but Dev's life or Dev's traits would be appearing at multiple places in the book. Just to quote a few, I just noted down here. The first chapter would start with the selection of the CEO. That itself is the inspiration from Dev. How Dev selected me for a job in his company, the earlier company called Ajuba. So how he has ended up selecting me, that's how the whole story would start. The only difference is in the story, Grandma in the Boardroom, the founder would not have any clues why the company is um, company is dwindling, the CEO would come and then shore up the profits and then revenue. Here, they from day one, he had all clues. He was the founder. He had all clues, and from day one, the word go. He has put in place his dream, his traits, his vision, and then he made it to grow significantly exponentially in 5 years. We used to tell that what Devas achieved in AGS Cult is an IIM case study, really. I'm not sure if anybody in IIM is looking at it. It's an IIM case study, actually. Yeah, just to tell a few things I just noted down. My association with Dev, in fact, started actually in a very irritating manner because they've offered me a job as a CTO in his company when he was literally out of time to get a CTO and get the company up and running. I was sitting on it, sleeping on it, the offer for almost a month, and then I went back and told Dave that no, I'm not taking up this offer. So anybody else would have got irritated. So that itself is one trait which is I always remember and then try to adapt. Whenever I get into a situation like that, he never got irritated. On the contrary, it has become a starting point in a relationship of 19 years, a positive relationship for both of us, which otherwise would have started in an irritating manner. It has become a starting point for a very cordial relationship for 19 long years. So I worked for Dev for 19 long years. Another point I used to tell in a couple of things, it's not an exaggeration. Out of 19 years, not sometime I used to be as a consultant, sometime as I was an employee, not, but either as a consultant or as an employee. None of these 19 years I have ever gone and stood before Dev and said, Dev, I need a hike. It's not, I'm not saying because it shows my magnanimity, definitely not. It was never an occasion required because they would somehow remember, even if I was a consultant, I had not used to go through any appraisal or anything, but he would somehow keep track. And then before 1 year, he would come and say that it's almost 1 year, you're doing a lot of work. Why don't you, from next month onwards, charge this much? That's it. He will just tell and then close it. And never any need. It's not an exaggeration. It's not a lie. I never ever gone and stood before him and said that I need a hike or I need a hike in salary. Okay. And a lot of things, whatever you would see in Grandma, what I have observed, I have taken from Dave in terms of his people relationship, his people management skills. Again, it's not an exaggeration. A startup company, which was a BPO company, not an IT company, he made that company to come into the top 25 great place to work. So just because of his passion and vision for people skills, people relationships, like what you would see the founder in the Emerge Pro, Rangarajan. So it's not an imagination. I have seen it in Dev. He would know almost everyone in the company, every employee in the company, not only the employee in the company. He would know their family. He would know their problems. He would, whenever he talks to them, he would relate. He would ask. He would inquire about the families. That's how if he comes in a lift, he sees an employee, he would start relating to the employee in the lift. I have seen all these things practically from Dev. That's how I have seen some of these things, whatever I have shown as a great examples in the story. Like he has put in it's actually his vision. He has put in a policy that nobody in the reception should wait for more than 15 minutes. If somebody is waiting for more than 15 minutes, then the receptionist should have the courtesy to go and find out why the person is waiting for more than 15 minutes. These are some of the things which I have seen Dave acting. Okay, so that's the kind of people person Dave is. So that's how he was able to bring it up, and exactly similar to what we have described in Grandma's story, that he was a person who said, I will take it up, he will lead from front, a new company, startup company, I will lead from front, I will do 6 months, manage the operations here in India, and 6 months I will go to the States and then start selling. And he was a single salesman who brought in, he was the founder and CEO, he brought in the sales, and then he recruited a sales team there in US. So this, so essentially, I was a little bit worried whether they will ask for a copyright for the book, but knowing Dave, he will never do that. He will never, so he would never mind. So I took the liberty. So I took the. It's not, as it said, it's not like completely. It's a mix of. So whatever you would see positive attributes in the book, you can say that that is the inspiration from Dave. So thank you, Dave. Thanks for the all the support, and thanks for writing the foreword. And we would definitely be thankful to you.
Thank you so much, Jagan, for these extremely kind and generous words. So when Jagan told me about the book that he was writing and what he was thinking in terms of the subject and how he was going about it, I was quite excited to read it, because there's so many books available today in relating to management. Probably thousands of books are now available on different facets of management, different functions within an organization, and there's no shortage. New books keep coming every day. A lot of them are theory based, with some bit of practical application or experiences peppered in. But when I had a chance to glimpse through and read through the earlier drafts, what Jagan had put together, first thought that came to my mind was that this is a very different and a unique way of looking at current problems and using stories we have all grown up listening, and kind of how to relate it. It's not an easy task to do that, because it requires a lot of creativity and a lot of imagination to draw parallels and then to try to connect the dots. And as as Mr. Ramani, as Dr. Sorry, sir, I don't know whether I should call Dr. Ramani or Mr. Srinivasan Ramani or Dr. Srinivasan Ramani mentioned, a lot of times engineers by training, a lot of even management folks by training are one-dimensional, and they write about a subject in a sort of a very narrow way. And I think if you're able to bring in some of the humanities and social sciences angle, then you're able to give a much better holistic picture to the whole situation. And I think that's a very difficult task to do, but it's something that the book has really captured so well, and it makes it very interesting, because that's when you remember things. People remember things if the story is told and brought into context. Otherwise, it's so easy to forget. So that was something which clearly stood out and made it a very interesting read. On the personal front, I would say that, as Jagan mentioned, I have known Jagan as a colleague and as a friend for over 20 years now. And all these 20 years, it's really been a delight to every interaction that I've had in all these years has been, an amazing experience for me as well, in terms of learning, in terms of comfort, in terms of trust. What happens a lot of times is that when we are writing something, whether it's about a company or about history or about a war or about an event, what people remember usually are the high level, what the event was, what caused the event, and then what was the outcome of the event. Whether if it's a war, it's who won or who lost, or if it's the Taj Mahal was built, okay, who built it, how old it is, and that's all we see, the outcome. Or in a company, whether the company was successful or did not succeed, we kind of see the outcome. But what happens is that the outcome is actually a sum total of thousands and thousands of small decisions that were made along the way. And every organization, including the ones I've been part of, have gone through a lot of inflection points wherein certain actions, certain decisions would have taken the organization one way or the other. And those don't get recorded because when these events sometimes happen, they just happen in the present form, and people move on, and seldom do we reflect about those kinds of events. And I think when history gets recorded or when a book is written, if you're able to capture back some of those kinds of specific events, inflection points, and you're able to combine it with the story of the past, India is blessed with, and our literature is blessed with so much of, whether it's true history, whether it's mythology, whatever we want to call it, scriptures, spirituality. If one is able to blend it, it's such a powerful way of teaching, because there's so much knowledge that exists that we can never have enough of it. And today, with more and more of the modern education becoming getting influenced much more globally and westernized, if we are able to bring some of this rich storytelling into real life, and this is not just stories that should stop with grandmas and parents telling children, but it should be something we should always, even as adults, we can actually benefit more out of it. So thank you for putting this spectacular idea together into a real book, and I hope everybody reads and enjoys it. I certainly did, and thanks once again for your kind words and for this opportunity, Jagan.
Thanks, Dave. Maybe I have just one more dream, probably to write Dave's biography. So I hope they would be interested. Okay, thank you. I hand it over back to Anuj.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Mr. Devendra Saharia and Dr. Ramani, for writing the foreword as well as for your insights about the book. Appreciate that really. We're going to have introductions of our other guest of honor here today, Dr. T.S. Surendran, who is he's the vice chairman of the Shankar Netralaya and the director of the pediatric ophthalmology department. He has his MBBS degree from the University of Madras and also an MPhil in hospital management from the Birla Institute of Technology and Science. And he's also the director of the Shankar Netralaya Pediatric Ophthalmology Learning and Training Center, as well as the president of the Shankar Netralaya Alumni Association. So we welcome you, Dr. Surendran. He's also a recipient of several awards. I think we can list these awards for a long time if we have to, but of really keen interest are his Mayan Award, which was for service towards socially and economically underprivileged community. And he also has a Best Doctor Award in the year 2011 from the government of Tamil Nadu, and also the Excellence Award from the Strabismological Society of India, and those are great accomplishments and great achievements over his career. So again, we want to specifically welcome Mr. Surendran. He's also the president of the Strabismological Society of India. Our other guest of honor today is Mr. Sumant Raman. He's currently the advisor as the head of healthcare innovation, life sciences, and healthcare unit at the Tata Consultancy Services. And he's an expert in the healthcare IT space in the area of hospital management system, information systems, and electronic medical records, telemedicine systems, and several others. He also, if we have to list down his accomplishments and mention those, it'll be a long time. But some of his accomplishments are the member of the Healthcare Subcommittee, CII, member of HL7, the International Standards Organization for Interoperability between Healthcare Systems, member of the Working Group on Governance, Tamil Nadu State Planning Commission. This was during September to December 2006, and also member of the eHealth Working Group of the Rockefeller Foundation. And he's also an adjunct professor to the government of Tamil Nadu at the Dr. MGR Medical University. So great accomplishments and great achievement. Again, we welcome you, sir, to this event. And I think of particular interest for Dr. Raman would be his other interests, which I am really happy to announce, and it was a great pleasure for me to read those. He's been a senior television anchor for many years, and also a sports commentator and he's a columnist in newspapers. So I think those are really interesting and noteworthy accomplishments, and happy to hear all of those. Our other third guest here today is Ms. VG Bhuma, and she's a senior government officer. She's a deputy GM Southern Railway and the chief vigilant officer right now. She's from the IRPS, Indian the Railway and Personal Services, and she has 30 plus years of experience in the government organization. And other than all the excellent role that and activities that she does for us as a government officer, she is also she has a keen interest in music and poetry. And when you read the book, you'll see that she's also translated some poems and also contributed to the book. So welcome again to Ms. VG Bhuma. So with the introductions of our guests of honor, now I'll request Dr. T.S. Surendran to reveal and open the launch the book, and then hand over a copy to Dr. Sampath Raman.
It's a pleasure handing over the first copy to Dr. Sampath Raman. So that is the book.
Thank you, sir.
I'll hand it over to Dr. Sampath on my left side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. This is the copy.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think grandma stories. I just should recollect my own grandma. She was born on 1st January 1900, very unique, and died in 94 December 24th, I think. She had practiced all what modern management those days. I think managing 3 daughters and 2 sons with their families is not a small thing in Tinagar. I think we had about 27 people in one house. I'm indeed very happy to release this book, and the author has aptly superimposed into the precarious scenes of the struggling IT company that is trying to find its feet with a variety of interesting characters. Congratulations to Jagan sir for his hard work that has produced an interesting story. Maybe it could be one day be a movie. We have a lot of grandfathers in our boardroom, and they too are wise, I must tell you, because the average age of board members is plus 80. Ancient wisdom of modern management is as old as Adam, or shall I say, as old as Lord Krishna. Interestingly, our heroic character of this book is Krishna Prasad. He is an outsider CEO. He came into help its founder, Rangarajan, who is planning to take the back seat from the role of the captain of the ship. They're called as the Emerge Pro. People like us who have crossed 60 have the rare opportunities of interacting with the number of old timers whose wisdom and outlook were phenomenal. Our generation also immersed ourselves in the age-old stories narrated by the elders of the family. My own mother, who is past 90, who is living, with all her sisters equally old. And in this story, our former Chief Minister, M.G. Ramachandran, who was one of my VIP patients, who asked me to prescribe him one lens for his right eye and one lens for his left eye, so that one eye could function for distance and one eye could function for near. What we call it as monovision, to read the budget. And I was bewildered to know that in the American Academy of Ophthalmology, Chicago, where a paper was discussed on monovision, one interesting revelation that I could gather from the book is the prospect of owning a prosperous enterprise without paying for it. I urge you to read the book and get to know how to do it. Once again, kudos to the author for the excellent piece of work, and I'm sure a lot of the youngsters will be inspired.
Thank you so much, Dr. Surendran. That was great to hear from you, and everything that you shared from your insights from the book, and also for the release and unveiling of the book and handing over to Dr. Sumanth Raman. Now we would request Dr. Raman to say a few words about his impressions of the book.
Yeah. Good evening to all. And first of all, let me say that I'm very happy to be able to participate in this function. At the outset, I think I would like to congratulate Mr. Jaganathan and Mr. Sampath Kumar for having come up with a very interesting book in terms not just of the concept, but also in the it's not an easy book to write, as Mr. Saharia said right now a few moments ago. But at the end of the day, if we look at it very objectively, life is essentially about that which was, that which is, and that which will be. And we have the opportunity of learning from that which was to shape that which will be. So I think that that is essentially, the old saying goes, you have two options. You can either run from the past or you can learn from it. And today, the ability to learn is from experience, from the past, is something that all of us need to imbibe. Our ancient epics, have been a continuous source of wisdom. And whether it is the Ramayana, whether it is the Mahabharata, whether it is the Arthashastra, which contains so many fascinating principles, the teachings of Buddha, the teachings of Mahavira. So if we go back and look at our scriptures, the issues that we face in the modern world are relating a lot of them directly rather than looking at them as possible allegories. Once we actually learn to look at them as allegories, we are better placed to distill the wisdom from there. In fact, I used to have an ex-boss who always said, feel free to make mistakes, but please make new mistakes. Don't make the same old mistakes that we've already made. So I think that was a very nice way of, saying, learn from experience. I mean, that would have been boring if he had said that. So just another couple of points that I wanted to share. Over a period of time, there are fundamental principles which don't ever change. And in business, the importance of leadership, the importance of ethics, the importance of action, all of these have never changed. And in fact, if you look at our epics, effectively, this is what they actually tell you. If you take the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, what is it but if not a treatise for the way one is supposed to live, and one is supposed to make decisions. So you have Arjuna, who is vacillating, who is in two minds, who is unwilling to act, and the process of getting him into action, telling him what his responsibilities are. I mean, for all practical purposes, that could be a management session. It is a management class for all, and it's probably the ultimate management lesson that we have seen. So there are lessons that we need to learn not just from our scriptures, but over a period of time from events of not so long ago in the past as well. So it could have been the experience which comes today. There is a tendency to decry experience. The youth believe that Google will give you all the answers to everything under the sun. Unfortunately, while to a large extent it can, there are intractable problems which can be solved by experience. And I'm a doctor basically. So in medicine, there is a very famous saying that your first responsibility as a physician is to do no harm. And sometimes we have a theory which is called the best surgeon in the world is one who knows when not to operate. And the best physician in the world is the one who knows when to do nothing. Both these aspects actually come from experience. It can never come from reading textbooks alone. A lot of it comes from experience. The urge to do something, even in companies, the urge to start something new, the urge to show some quick results, all of that leads to complications, as we have seen many times in the business world. Management lessons, I think there is no shortage of them coming from our ancient heritage, and I think it's a brilliant idea that Mr. Jaganathan and Mr. Sampath Kumar have thought of putting something together like this and bringing it out. I'm sure that this book will be very interesting, but more than just being interesting, I think it will be extremely useful for those who are looking at learning basic skills of management in terms of relating it to the past and learning from such experiences. So once again, my best wishes to both the authors, and I hope and do wish that this would be the first in a series of books. I'm sure that they would, if they did more research, they would find a lot more opportunities to from our scriptures, from our history, to build in more lessons that will be useful for the managers of today, or the industry honchos of today. So thank you once again for inviting me to be part of this function, and I wish the book all the very best, and I wish that the authors continue on this journey of writing for a long time to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raman. Particularly enjoyed all your words of wisdom and your insights. So thank you so much for those. Now we are actually going to move forward with the interesting part of this event, and we would love to hear from the authors on making of the book and what transpired, what they thought about the book, and so on. Before I do that, I'll do a quick introduction of both our authors. First of all, Mr. Jaganathan, you've heard from him already. He's been the founder and the managing director of FutureCalls Technology Private Limited, a company that was recognized and awarded as the top 100 system integration companies by the Channel World. So he's held several leadership positions, including past president, secretary, and treasurer of the Chennai chapter of the CIO Club. And his first book, The Management Immemorial, came out 2 years ago, and it did pretty well. I was glad that I was able to get a hold of a copy and read through it. It was, again, great lessons about management in that book, and I think this book, The Grandma in the Boardroom, is going to do take it up a notch and do give us a lot of insights in management. So I'm happy to read this book also. So I invite Mr. Jaganathan to share his words and his experiences in writing this book.
Thank you, Anuj. First of all, thank Dr. Surendran, Dr. Sumant Raman to taking time in their busy schedule, and then revealing the first copy and also giving their words of wisdom. So it all started about 3 years back, 2018. because until then I was busy in only corporate world, corporate IT. So 3 years back, in incidental discussion with a few people, there was a discussion about it's very common, very famous. Thank God it is Friday. So when I start thinking about it, then natural natural corollary of that is, oh God, it is Monday. I need to go to work. So that's how it's predominantly started from a Western culture, but it's coming into our culture as well. So then I start thinking about it. I used to think, where do we get this? Because our Puranas or our stories always say that work is worship. So where do we get this concept of? So that's how it started. And then in another incidental discussions, then I came across this. I used to be very fond of quotes. You must all be familiar with Zig Ziglar. It's a great management guru. So his quote says that your attitude determines your altitude. I like this very much. I used it in the first book and I repeated it in the second book also. Because this was one of the trigger for me to start thinking in this line. But when I think about it, everybody starts telling Zig Ziglar quote, your attitude determines your altitude, etc., etc. But if you really see that, Zig Ziglar was early 20th century management guru. But what Thiruvalluvar said 2000 years before Zig Ziglar, probably, if Thiruvalluvar would have been alive now, he would have asked for a copyright for this quote from Zig Ziglar. Exactly the same thing he says, probably enhancing it with a good, nice example also. How water flower rises its stem automatically when the flood comes. When the water rises, the water flower stem also rises. So he says that uyarvu. So your thoughts determine your growth. So exactly the same thing, but only thing is he said about 2000 years back. So when I start thinking about it, not many, I was also not familiar about 50 years. I started thinking about it. So we are not familiar of the values of our literature, values of our culture, our stories. Then I started working on that. That's how this Monday Musings started. So then I started a weekly blog called Monday Musings. Initially, I started only from my employees, motivate them for a work culture, to motivate them for a work week. Looking forward to a Monday, a work week. So that's how I started Monday Musings. It used to come every Monday, consistently every Monday. Not a single Monday is missed. So it came for about 25 weeks. At that time, I wasn't even thinking that I'm going to write a book. So I just shared my thought process. So when I started thinking that the thought process is coming to a shape and it is coming every week, I'm having enough material. There was not a single week where I had to think that what should I write. I don't have anything to think about it. So every week of enough material keeps coming. So then I thought, why not write a book? So after 25 weeks of Monday Musing, then I said, okay, let me conceptualize into a book. And that's how the first book, Management Immemorial, came out. So Management Immemorial is 15 leadership traits, self-development qualities in 3 different chapters, skills, attitudes, and leadership traits. So he explained about that and how it explained in our literature, taking quotes from Tirukural, Bharatiyar songs. I'm a big fan of Bharatiyar songs because he covered every subject on the earth, including management, okay, including personality development. It's not that for Bharatiyar is written only about religion or freedom. He is written about everything in the earth. So Kabir. So I started collecting this classical literature and how we can adapt it for our life skill development. So that's how Management Immemorial came out. It got reasonably good acceptance. I took a break after 25 weeks of Monday Musings, 25 weeks of Monday Musings episodes, and then started writing this book. And then once this book is launched, then I said, what next? So as always, I say that there is no finish line. One book has come, Monday Musings have stopped. So it doesn't mean that that is the end of the story. So what should I do? Then I restarted Monday Musings as the Monday Musing season 2. And then I thought it should be a little different concept. Of course, my favorite concept has now become in terms of classical management. So then I started looking at stories, how the stories relate to current world problems, current management philosophy. So I started taking up stories and then started writing Monday Musing season 2. So now season 2 is still continuing. I'm doing it every week. Again, no break. It is now, last week was 117th episode. All 117 episodes are there in LinkedIn. So if it is not there, I have not seen it. If it is not there, I am posting it in my website also now. So this is just like a sharing my thought process. So then as and when it started growing, then I thought, why not I write about this concept in terms of management philosophy using our Indian classical stories. But unlike the first book, maybe that was one of the feedback, as I said, one defining trait is to look for feedback and then fine tune, as Sumant Raman said, if you made a mistake, do a mistake again, but maybe better do a different mistake. So I thought how to improve on that. So one of the probable possible feedback I heard from management in memorial, the first book, is that it's a more theory. It's just 15 skills, and then it's more preaching, if you make it crude, no lessons and preaching the subject. So that was what one of the feedback I heard. Then how to make it, reach it to the common man, make it more interesting also, not like reading some management book, self-development book, make it more interesting and reach to the doors of the common man, make it very interesting to them. Then I started thinking of a story format, and that's how I thought the story. Then I thought I need to take a help to add, to share my thoughts, to review, and then maybe give some inputs. So I took the help of Sampath. I know Sampath from our first job. So we used to work together, and then he was my senior in my first job, and then different kinds of relationship. Then I became a customer for that company, ICIM. Then I started my own company. Then Sankar Netralaya became our customer. So we used to be in touch. So I thought, are you interested? Then he was also very interested. So this is maybe probably one subject I would also be very keen on. Let's liberate ourselves from negative thoughts. Let's look at positive thoughts. Let's look at challenges, opportunities from challenges. Please read and then give your feedback, comments. That would help me probably to shape the third book. As I said, some feedback shaped me, gave me the idea for the second book on a story format. So please share your feedback. You can share it to author jagan@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagan. I have very, very little to share because he has almost summarized everything. We put some punch here and there. And then because the storyline has to be stronger to understand the management part of it, which we really wanted to go strongly into the minds of the readers, particularly the new generation, that should be able to relate, okay, the old values and the new requirements of management. And that happened, I think. COVID delayed, but COVID also helped in terms of finding a lot of time, okay, to probably do. So that is why if it is 4 iterations, in COVID we decided to do 8 iterations. Even publisher was actually quite annoyed because the way we were going up and down saying you change this, change that. That is not there like that, but publisher was, Notion Press was very, very supportive. And all the other people I should mention who actually supported us, I think particularly in bringing this page to this level, okay, book to this level. Even the title itself went through a very big discussions in terms of this, that, and this, and finally ended up in a very good title. Even I rejoice that title every moment. Grandma sitting in the boardroom virtually. It's a virtual day now. New normal is everything is virtual, nothing physical. So grandma is also virtual in the current management scenario. And then she helps the Krishna Prasad. As Dr. TSS said, Krishna name essentially has fit very well in terms of what he did for Arjuna. I think this Krishna has done for essentially his own Emergy Pro and took it to very great heights. And I think I personally want to thank Jagan for giving this opportunity to me to be associated in this. And maybe I'm always with him in everything, so many other things also. So I think when the next book comes, I think my ideas, my suggestions, everything is always for him. And one day he wants to probably, I want him to see as one of the sort of book writers that is recognized just not in India, across the sort of outside also. And because like R.K. Narayan, an Indian writer, getting recognized all over the world. Okay, it's just not possible if you put the right content, right structure, and right message goes through that book. I wish Jagannathan all the best in this, and I also again thanking him for this opportunity. I wish each and everyone involved in this book making, okay, in making of this book, a big thanks to them. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sampath Kumar. That was great to hear from you also on your side of the story in terms of how the book came up. We would also like to welcome Hema Rajgopalan ma'am, and she's been a banking professional, retired banking professional, and she's been keen in her interest in art. But I think this is the first time she's drawing for a book, and it's an integral part of the book. So we would like to hear a few sentences from her.
This is the first time I am drawing for a book. This is the first time I am drawing for a book. Actually, I used to draw from my childhood on a piece of paper here and there. But I didn't know that I can do this job. I actually thanks Bhuma Veeravalli, discover the talent in me and bring it to life. And I also thank Sir Jagan for giving me this opportunity. I receive an appreciation that my drawings are nice, But the reason is that I really enjoy this book. It is very interesting, and this grandma stories are very interesting. I enjoy the book, and I do accordingly. Thank you very much.
In fact, I should say that the drawing add in our opinion, the drawings add a lot of value and luster to the book. Definitely, this is one of the drawings. We should have taken it into the presentation PowerPoint and just show a lot of value to that.
Thank you so much. Those were great insights into the book. Now we will continue to the last part of this session and this event. I would probably take maybe a couple minutes from my own first-hand experience in reading the book, and then I'll hand over to our guest, Ms. Viji Bhuma, to address and share her insights also. From my side, I think many of you have already covered a lot of aspects about the book, and I don't want to go over that again, but the dynamics between a founder and a CEO, the life of a CEO during good times and bad times, the important lessons that have been mentioned in the book, particularly, I think the charting of the course as well as correcting the course as required. I think those were great insights that I was able to imbibe and read from the book. Two of the favorite areas of interest from the book that I particularly like are owning responsibilities. As a leader, you need to own responsibilities, and you need to be in the forefront whenever you see situations where you have to make a huge decision or take responsibilities. So I think that was one area which I particularly enjoyed. And then the second that is very close to my heart is learning, continuous learning. And that has been mentioned very well in the book in terms of learning has no limits. So I think these are all great chapters in the book that give us immense value in terms of management and leadership. And I would recommend this book to anybody who would like to learn, again, with good storytelling, but at the same time, a lot of value in terms of lessons. So with that, I'll hand over to Ms. Viji Bhuma, and then she can share some of her insights.
I have to say that I'm extremely privileged that I saw Grandma in Boardroom evolve from a very tentative idea and then coming into small installments of concepts, putting together the stories, then evolving into a full book. I think I have been part of the growth of Grandma in Boardroom, and I think I'm really lucky. I had both a ringside view of it and an insider view of it after it emerged. So I think it is a privilege. It is almost as much of a privilege to see a book evolve as it is to see a baby born. So I think I had the luck of having this scene. And I also see that already it is having an impact because I see the illustrator saying that she enjoyed the book and that's how the illustrations came out. So probably that shows how it's already impacted by the person and motivated them. And I saw the same trend, Mr. Sampath Kumar saying how he was able to discuss and parry words and then come together. And as I said, I'm sure already several copies of the books have been sold. And I see that some of the comments that are coming in the WhatsApp, I was reading some of them. And I see that there is a lot of positive response to the book. So I wish the book all the best. Personally, looking at it as a government officer, where management is more of an everyday challenge. Every day there is something to face, a firefighting to do, and then you know that there is a quadrant 2 item waiting there too. So every day there is a challenge and how you overcome the challenge. And I have to share with you some of these, the pages of the book which resonated with me. I really liked that page 116 onwards regarding the Chennai floods. I'm sure all of us who went through Chennai floods would know what a trauma it was. I was staying in IIT and I know a lot of trees fallen. Like it was heartbreaking to see so many trees fall and the one green lung of Chennai and how much it suffered. And then this is a complete different perspective of how to build out of that trauma. So that was very, very exciting. It was very interesting and gave a lot of insight to me. Then again, I think I love this picture in page 163. If you have the book, please look at it. This probably would hit and would go straight to the this thing. Probably Anuj, you can just take the page and show it. Look at the the typical way a government works. You will not remove the stone. You will build the piping around it. I mean, that just resonated with me as a government officer. It's very interesting insight. And I like the word, the cannery in the coal mine, page 221. Again, something I think which was a little bit of very completely different learning from what we have in the government sector. So that's another very interesting taking. But I really, once again, I join all of you in wishing Mr. Jaganathan and Mr. Sampath Kumar a wonderful compilation. You've really worked hard. You've scoured the canvas of story, world of stories. You've gone from Ramayana to Ratan Tata, Vidura to Vivekananda, Panchatantra to Post-it. What more? I mean, you've just really gone through the entire gamut, picked what you think is very, very relevant, related it to the incidents, and then brought together a wonderful collage of stories and put it together and built it, wove it into the book, into the incidents of a corporate life. Who would have believed that we could take from Vidura or a Panchatantra and build it into corporate life and something that will be relevant even today? It's a fantastic achievement. I really give a lot of credit to the authors. And of course, a picture says what 1,000 words do. So a lot of credit to the illustrator, Ms. Hema Rajagopalan. And I think I take the credit for having discovered her talent and how it can fit into the book. Amazing work. I think that brought out this thing. But I have to share with you one secret. What I loved most is towards the end of the book. What do women want? I hope all the men here, please go back home, ask this question and put it into your lives. What do women want? and it is really lovely. And I also like the way he ended saying, the woman is still waiting for Krishna Prasad to give the reaction that she is wanting. I think that was a great way to end the book. I think the ideas of beginning with the present and going into the past and weaving the past and present and making it a narration from different people's perspective, it's awesome. It's a wonderful effort. And I really thank all the people who got into it. I think the acknowledgement covered several people. There are many, many more probably behind it, starting from the driver to the CEO. There are a lot of people who went into it. I would like to say a lot of thanks and a lot more thanks to all of you who are here to make it a special occasion. And I feel blessed that I have been invited to be part of this occasion. I also want to give a special thanks to many of you who are watching it in the YouTube. Thanks a ton, and I think it's been a wonderful journey, and I think the journey has begun. Jaganathan has already threatened us saying there is no finish line and he's already going to come up with the next book. So let's also look forward to reading the next book. Thank you very much. I'll end with my favorite poet, Bharatyar. மறைவாக பழங்கதைகள் பேசி திரிவதில் பயனில்லை, திறமான புலமையனில் வெளிநாட்டார் அதை வணக்கம் செய்தல் வேண்டும். There is no point in just talking about old wives' tales among ourselves. If it is an achievement of great competence, it should be appreciated by the great people of global eminence. I am sure Grandma in the boardroom is one step in that direction. Thank you, Jai Hind, and a great time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And with that, I think we are coming close to the end of this great event that we've had today. And I would request Mr. Sampath to share with us and take us through the end with a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Anuj. So first of all, I thank to everyone who is seen on the screen, virtually each other, and who are in YouTube, okay? And already I have got a feedback from Melbourne, okay, where my daughter is there, and granddaughter's music teacher has sent. It's an excellent event that she has attended today. I think they are 4.5 hours ahead. I think they wanted to attend it. They have attended it. And they have sent a very nice message. I think that tells, I think, the essence of the book is essentially going into the mind of the people who are all attending this. Okay. So I think I will first start with essentially Dave Sagaria and Dr. TSS. Okay, Dr. Ramani, Srinivasan Ramani, essentially for taking time to come here and then writing the foreword. I think when Jagan showed me the foreword of Saharia, Dev, I will also call him Dev if he doesn't mind, okay? And when he told me that, I was so impressed what kind of relationship Dev and Jagan will be sharing. It is just not a kind of a professional relationship. It is much, much more than that. I think they are all the points which really kicked off Jagan to get into this kind of narration that should go to the next generation also. And Dr. Ramani, as I told you, I think he was my first boss. And I think he still continues to be remaining as my boss, okay? So I think I learned a lot of things in my first 8 years of my career at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. I thank Dr. Ramani and Mr. Dev for having accepted to write the foreword and giving words of wisdom in this event. And of course, Dr. Sumanth and Dr. TSS doesn't need any introduction. Particularly Dr. Sumanth is seen most of the days, okay, by many people, okay. And then he is just not a TV person alone. I know him. I think his capabilities are much, much more than that. He's a doctor, I think. I think his passion for medicine is not at all gone. And I think he has been doing an excellent job in medicine side. Also his latest IT involvement in many activities, plus also the columnist and the other things that he has been pursuing relentlessly. Now, from regional, I think he has just moved on to national level. Okay, Sumanth is known all across India now in terms of his contribution to sharing views and debating and then putting strong points. He always puts some strong points. I thank Suman and Dr. TSS for taking time off and coming here. And particularly, I think Booma's talk was very, very inspiring, I'm telling you. And she said, you go back home and ask your wife what she wants. Okay. So I think we all have to do that. I think my wife is also here actually, just accompanied me and came here for the function. So I think that's a good speech given by Bhuma. I thank her for the same. And everyone involved in this, the Kailash and Vineet, I think the technology is more difficult to handle than talking. Okay. I can sit comfortably on this chair and talk for 2 hours. But the technology they have handled to make this happen without any break. And I thank Vineet and Kailash for making this a very grand affair. As I told you, I think books have reached many people much earlier than this release. Today morning, my neighbor says, I have received my book, Sampath. I have started reading it. Another fellow, you won't believe, is my close friend, one Chandrasekhar. He has read 230 pages, okay, in the last 3 days. He has given us some good taglines. I think I've already given it to Jagan to be used in our taking this book forward. I'll just share one or two of those things. A book is a book when it doesn't read a bookmark. That means it's an unstoppable reading, okay? You start and finish it. So his quote says, book is a book when it doesn't read. Another quote he said is, now reader, tomorrow you are a leader, okay, after reading the book. So it gives you so much of leadership qualities, management qualities. You can really get into that. I thank that external friends also who had actually interacted with me and Jagan and giving that feedback. I am sure after this event, so many people would have watched. And sure there will be a lot of feedbacks that are going to come that will help actually to understand this book. I will expect a lot of feedbacks from this event. And I think I should also thank Hema, I think, for putting her beautiful creative thoughts into that. I think you can always take a photo and put it. Initially, we thought, then Jagan and we thought that why don't we get it stretched? Because we have an artist by our side. I think she has given excellent sort of sketches and then illustrations here. I thank each and everyone involved in this book. And thank you all very much. Okay.
So I think with that, again, a big thank you to everybody who has joined today's event, and we will now end this and celebrate the release of the book, and hopefully we all have a great experience reading it.